Hey guys, Marsingin here, bringing a Dragon Ball Z Dokkan battle video, and so today we are going to be talking about Lord Slug and his banner, and asking the question from the title, of course, should you summon or should you skip when it comes to this new Dokkan Festival banner? So we're going to talk about a whole bunch of different stuff. There's quite a bit to go over, interestingly enough, considering we don't know what the full lineup of the banner is going to be. I do have some predictions that we're going to talk about in this video. And of course, we don't know 100% the format of the banner because we're going to talk about that as well. We can kind of get a good guess based on what we've gotten with the last Dokkan Fest banner, which is Vegeta, of course, not including Roshi, because Roshi was a catch-up banner for Global. Had some stuff that we weren't expecting, like the not having the pity system and stuff like that, right? Because it wasn't on the JP version, so they decided to keep the banners the same. So there's a few different things that we could be faced with when it comes to the banner actually dropping. And of course, now with everything coming out at the same time, we are in the same boat as JB has always been, where we don't know everything like ahead of time, right? We don't know the exact banner lineup before the banner's going to drop. I mean, to be fair, with Global, there were often changes to the banners, but at least we would have a rough idea of what to expect. But we're going to talk about all of that stuff in this video, so make sure you guys let me know down below what you think. Are you going to be summoning for Lord Slug? Are you going to be skipping? Hit that like button and let's just jump straight in. So Lord Slug himself does seem like a very good unit. His leader skill is pretty interesting. The demonic power, inhuman deeds or movie bosses, and then terrifying conquerors or space traveling warriors. He's got a lot of interesting characters on his 200% team. So his team seems like it's going to be pretty good. He raises attack and defense for 1 turn, does immense damage, and has a great chance to stun. I mean, stun is useful in some of the like Peppy Gal stages that we got and stuff like that, but I guess there are some earlier events as well where you can stun in like the first phase and stuff like that. But it's just a nice little additional thing to have. Raise attack and defense for the turn obviously is a good super attack effect. And then he has an entrance animation, which gives him 200% attack and 33% damage reduction for the rest of the battle, and activates his domain. But you need to have 3 or more demonic power allies on the team, which you probably always are going to with his team build anyway, so that's fine. And then he has 200% attack and defense 2 key, reduces damage received by 33%. So as long as you got his intro, he has 66% damage reduction. He gets an additional attack that has a great chance to become a super. Additional attack and defense 50% with each attack performed up to 200%. And it's each attack and not super, right? So he's always going to get that after his first 2 appearances, because he always launches an additional attack. He might get the hidden potential, but then that'll just be 3. But then, yeah, he'll be built up by the end of his 2nd appearance, which is good. He foresees enemy super attacks within the character's attacking turn, starting from the turn in which he receives the 5th attack. So he has a scouter after he's been hit 5 times, which is really, really good. Obviously a very powerful mechanic. And then he recovers 6% HP when 66% or HP is 66% or less at the end of the turn, and recovers 10% HP at the end of the turn and all allies key 2 while the domain is active. So even if you're not below the 66%, he just heals 10% at the end of the turn, whilst also giving all allies 2 extra key while the domain is active. And the domain raises demonic power, allies and enemies attack and defense by 15%, increased damage received by superclass enemies and allies by 10%, and an additional 15% if they are earthbred fighters. So any events where you're fighting like Goku, Gohan, Piccolo, like any earthbred fighter superclass characters, his domain makes them take 25% extra damage, which is really good. And then he has an active skill which does damage, and can be activated when HP is 60% or less, or starting from the 4th turn. So you can either use it from turn 4, or you could literally use it on his first appearance if you're already at 60% or less HP. That will count as an attack for building up his passive. So ideally you do want to use it once he is built up, because then it will do the most damage possible. But yeah, he seems really good, really solid. I've seen counts for him being like well over 1 million defense after supering with 66% damage reduction. So obviously that is very good. So yeah, and then of course we have his banner unit. And his banner unit actually seems pretty good as well, right? So Anguilla and Medamacha, his minions, they lead demonic power or join forces. You know, typical banner unit, only a 130 lead. Could be useful for battlefield, but it's not that important. Raise defense for 1 turn. does supreme damage, seals super attack, and recovers 6% HP. So pretty good super attack effect. Key 2 attack and defense 150, high chance to dodge, additional attack that has a high chance to become a super, extreme allies key 1 and defense 30%, plus an additional key 1 and attack and defense 30% for characters who also belong to the demonic power category. So the way it's worded is also. So if you have super class demonic power category allies on the team, they don't get any support. But extreme demonic power allies are getting 2 key, 30% attack and 60% defense. So obviously that's super good for Slug as well. Then they get an additional attack and defense 40% up to 200 and chance to dodge 4% up to 20 with each attack performed. So they'll build up to having a 70% dodge chance. They launch an additional attack that has a great chance of becoming a super starting from the turn in which they perform the 3rd super. Then they get another additional attack with a high chance of becoming a super from the turn they perform the 6th super. And they get an additional super attack guaranteed if the enemy is stunned or super attack sealed, or if there is an Earthbred Fighters enemy attacking. So once they're fully built up, once they've done 6 super attacks, and if you're fighting an Earthbred Fighters character, they get 3 extra super chances in their passive, which means with the hidden potential thrown in as well, they could super 5 times in one turn. And they only need to super 5 times to fully build up their passive. So that's very, very interesting. These guys seem like they could be very good. Obviously, if you summon for Slug and you only get these guys, it's not great, but then you can put a team together where you can run a Slug friend and try out the like partial team setup. But these guys definitely seem like a good banner unit, which is a lot more than we can say for the last banner that came out, right? Like if you summoned for Vegeta and only got Kui, that would be very, very disappointing. But these guys actually seem like they could be pretty good. So talking about the banner itself. So if we jump over to Dokkan info to take a look at the banner lineup. Now this was the last Dokkan Fest banner we got. You know, the first the post-sync Dokkan Fest. The tech, sorry, not tech. I was going to say tech because the coins are green. The AGL Scouter Vegeta. So Lord Slug has the coins as well. Now the question is, does that mean, as a lot of people were very disappointed to find out when this banner dropped, that this was a 10 SSR featured banner? So they've, you know, it's one of those like give with one hand, take away with the other kind of thing, where we got the pity system for these filler Dokkan Fest now, but the banner has more featured units on it. So every 3 summons is a guaranteed featured, but there are more units that could potentially be outside of the new one, which is most likely the one that you want. But it does have the pity system. So it's one of those things that whilst it would be nicer for the banner to have less featured units, I would definitely prefer having the pity system over not having it. Especially if you are someone that really wants to pull Slug. Obviously you know that with a certain amount of stones you are going to get him, right? And if we take a look over at the what's going to be the right view for this one, if we take a look over at the breakdown from the data download from Proton, we can see here we have the coins. You know, you need 200 coins to get a copy of the character, which is essentially the equivalent of 1,000 stones, but you can of course trade in any SSRs that you already have rainbowed for 3 extra coins each. If you're able to trade in a lot of SSRs, like I'm obviously in a position where pretty much every unit that isn't one of the new ones, or maybe one of the most recent like featured Dokkan Fest, like maybe the unit that's returning for the first time, chances are almost every SSR I pull that isn't those new characters is going to be one that I can trade in, and that brings the average down to around like 600 to 700 stones worth of coins, and then you get the rest from the characters that you trade in. So that's something to bear in mind if you are going to, you know, contemplating summoning for Slug. You are guaranteed to get him if you do a certain amount of summons. And then the other thing, of course, for players who spend, as we always talk about, like, I think going forward, this is just always going to be a thing, right? It's been every banner on Global for at least the last year or so, I would say. But there are purchasable ticket packs, and they have started to add a little bit of extra value to these now that the pity system is a thing, where by doing the ticket summons, I think for the legendary ones, I think they just come in the ticket pack. For the Vegeta ones, you just got coins by doing the ticket summons. Like, you didn't get coins when you bought the tickets, but then when you did the 7 ticket multi, you got some coins. I think it was only like 5 or something, which is, you know, still better than 0. It gives these tickets a little bit of extra value, because if you do want to try out the tickets, you can get some of those pity coins before you then decide to jump in with some stones, and then obviously that will help decrease that total of number of stones that you need to spend in order to hit the pity limit as well. So obviously that's something that's only for people who spend on the game. I talk about quite a lot when we do these videos that summon or skip advice is usually for people who are free to play or don't spend very much on the game, because you very much need to think about like what's coming up next and all that kind of stuff. So obviously those kind of people aren't buying the purchasable tickets anyway. But those are there as an option if you are a spender. Now, the other thing is, of course, to think about what is the actual rest of the banner lineup going to be. And I think there is going to be a significantly interesting development where I think the banners are going to be different for Global and JP. Because Roshi's banner that just came out on Global was supposed to have Topo featured on it and it be his first return. But they changed it for Global and we had the first return of AGL Frieza instead, which I guess makes sense because he did come out before Topo on Global, so having him return first like makes sense. So I definitely have a feeling that Topo could be featured on this banner for Global, but because he did return on the Roshi banner for JP and has returned once already, I know the Roshi banner wasn't very long ago on JP, so it would be weird for him to return again so quickly on JP. However, JP have yet to have Rose return on a banner. So given the weirdness with like shifting Topo off of the Roshi banner and the fact that even though we technically are synced, we are still kind of playing catch up a little bit, I guess until the end of the year. And then once we've started like 2025, everything will just be fully all the same, everything at the same time and all that. So I could definitely see this being the reason why Topo wasn't on the Roshi banner is because he is going to be on the Slug banner for Global, and then Rose is going to be on the Slug banner for JP. Because I mean, Topo doesn't really make a lot of sense to be on the Slug banner. I guess technically, well, I was going to say he is on Space Traveling Warriors, but that's one of Slug's plus 30%. So he can't be run on Slug's team, and Slug can't be run on his team. However, for JP, if it is Rose, Rose is at least on Inhuman Deeds. So he is actually on Slug's team. Although, being that Rose wants to kind of be built around super bosses, it's not really the best team to run him on. But he can be run on Slug's team. So I definitely think we'll see these guys, like I say, Topo for Global, Rose for JP. The rest of the banner is a bit like up in the air because we often see on these Dokkan Fest banners, we get like the older versions of characters as like the filler slots and stuff, but there are no other Dokkan Fest Lord Slugs. Obviously, if say STR Bojack is going to be the EZA for this celebration, he could be featured on the banner. We do see that sometimes, right, where the unit featured is the EZA. I think didn't Vegeta's banner, if we go back to the Dokkan Info one, yeah, Vegeta's banner had full power Frieza, and he obviously got his super EZA as part of the celebration. But I definitely haven't, like, it definitely is a bit worrying. Like, you look at some of these featured units on the Vegeta banner, and the best unit here is obviously the Tech Saiyan Day Vegeta. But, like, you look at the row below him with, like, Tailairs, ROF Blues, Super Vegeta, Namek Goku, all pretty terrible old Dokkan Fests. So I can imagine this banner looking somewhat similar to this, right, where it's going to be Slug, the banner unit, and then either Topo or Rose are going to be, like, the highest value units. Maybe a unit that's getting an EZA is going to be on the banner as well. And then that's pretty much it in terms of points of interest for the actual banner. So obviously we have to wait and see. Nowadays, like I say, until the banner is live in the game, we won't know the full banner lineup. I'm assuming that they are going to stick to having the 10 featured units if it has the pity coins, which, like I say, while it's not ideal, I would still rather that than not have a pity system. But we'll have to wait and see what the full banner lineup looks like. And then, of course, the final point, as I say, considering everything that is going to be coming out in the near future, we obviously know that Heroes is going to be coming up at some point in November. We did get the tweet today announcing that the, it's not a live stream, it's just like a YouTube premiere, is going to be on Monday. Although I think for like US it's actually just like late Sunday evening, because I think the post mentions it in like JP time, and that will give us a breakdown of the Heroes characters. Now, as much as I love Heroes, and you guys know this is like the home of Heroes, if you're free to play or a low spending player, probably not the best banners to be summoning on, because as cool as the characters are, like they're all super cool and unique, but historically they don't age very well. So in terms of value for your stones, you want to be saving, especially because, and I feel like we're just going to mention this all the way up until the end of the year now with every banner, for global you have to remember that the anniversary is coming way quicker than it usually does, because the anniversary is at the end of January / beginning of February, and now that everything is synced and everything's coming out at the same time, it means that global has gone like anniversary into worldwide into another anniversary within the space of like 6 or 7 months. So you have to bear in mind that the next anniversary is going to be in like 2 to 3 months time, basically 3 for like when it actually starts, right? So big stuff coming. There's going to be a New Year Dual Dokkan Fest. Last year was the Dragon Fist Goku and Hirudegarn. There's another Dokkan Fest potentially at the end of November / beginning of December. Then we already know from the roadmap there's a Carnival LR banner coming out in December, like the LR Super Saiyan Trio from last year. So there's loads and loads of stuff coming up. Now, obviously, all of it is unknown. We know Heroes is happening, but we don't know what the units are. I will say SLUG does seem very good. His team seems like it's going to be super fun. But if you are contemplating summoning, but you are free to play or a very low spending player, I would say that while SLUG seems really, really good, I would say personally, just from what I've seen on paper, I need to test him out in game before I make any concrete judgments. But I would say I think he's better than Roshi and Vegeta. I mean, he's definitely better than Vegeta, but I think he's probably better than Roshi as well. But he is a unit that you definitely don't need to have, whilst he will be super good and super fun. So if you are free to play or a low spending player, I would say you probably want to be skipping SLUG and saving everything for the anniversary. Maybe a little bit in on Heroes if you really want to. I know there's a couple of people in the community, which is unsurprising in this community because we're all about Heroes, who are free to play but have saved up so that they can use a certain amount on Heroes and still have some left over. But yeah, for now I would say SLUG is not an easy skip because he is really good, but yeah, low spending players should be focusing on pretty much the anniversary as the next big thing. If you're a mid-level like spender, you maybe buy sales, buy tickets. I would say he's worth summoning for in terms of how good he is. But again, you've got to think about stockpiling resources for all the big stuff. And then obviously if you're a whale or a collector or something like that, you're probably going to be summoning for him regardless. So I will be summoning for him. I did skip Roshi. But I do really want this guy. Hopefully we can get him nice and easy and then still have a good amount for Heroes. But yeah, I think I'll probably get like one of the ticket packs and then do a few summons, but I'm definitely not going to go all in with my stones. So I want to make sure we've got a good amount for Heroes. So if we get him, we get him, and we will have to see. I will be live for when the banner comes out. It's out at 5 o'clock in the morning UK time. So by the time this video goes up, if you're watching it as soon as it goes up, it'll go up at like 10 PM UK time. So the banner's going to be out in like 7 hours if you're watching this video when it goes up, like straight away. So hopefully I will see you guys at the stream. Hopefully if you are summoning, we will all get some good luck, but I guess we'll have to see. So let me know your thoughts down below in the comment section. Are you summoning? Are you skipping? Let me know. So that is going to be it for the video, guys. This has been the Masked Ningen. Smash that like button, subscribe to the channel if you are new. Check out the links down below, and I will see you all again soon. Have a good one.